Thanks for watching this installment of Leading Through the Master Schedule, a video series about scheduling, equity, and access in education. Imagine trying to put 2,000 students into 800 classes with 500 teachers all at once. It almost sounds impossible, and it can certainly be challenging, which is why it often gets delayed, resulting in hours of toiling over this complex puzzle during summer vacation. Breaking this down into manageable and iterative pieces will eliminate unnecessary work and allow you to build a schedule that meets the needs of all your students and staff.
The first time I realized how important the master schedule was, I was working with a brand new school, and they started telling me how every time they wanted to make a change to where students were or how long they spent on a given activity, they had to go to this woman who ran operations and ask her what would be the implications of us taking 15 minutes from this type of time and putting it here. And she would go away, and 3 to 4 weeks later, she would come back and say, well, if you did that, this would happen, this would happen, this would happen. And it just didn't make sense to me. I couldn't understand what was she doing this whole time. So I spoke to her and saw this complex array of spreadsheets she was using, realizing just how interconnected every student is, that just moving 15 minutes from one type of course or type of study to another could have major implications for what students had access to.
Here's the problem. Most scheduling teams traditionally start by figuring out how many sections they can offer based on the number of staff they have and what they want to teach. Then they review their course requests, and inevitably, there are more requests than sections available. Negotiations with teachers often happen to try to add more courses or sections, and schedule placements begin.
When I started building schedules, the first thing that I thought about was just blocks of times and groups of students. What teacher do I have to teach science? What schedule do they like? What room are they in? And let me kind of start thinking about how to fill those gaps.
That's the old way. A student-first scheduling approach puts students at the center of the scheduling equation, which results in a schedule that starts with student demand. So, what does an iterative scheduling approach, putting students first, look like?
You actually need to put the student's interest as the very first thing that you're considering when building a schedule, which isn't to say that we don't take staff preferences and constraints into consideration, but rather the logic behind why we make a decision needs to come back to what is the impact on students? Are we doing things that are making students more prepared for high school, college, and beyond? And so when we think about this through an equity lens especially, we have to come back to thinking about the students first and what they need and making sure that we provide that.
An iterative process begins with assessing your course requests. What classes are students demanding? Add up the course requests to figure out what the total demand is, and then look at the total number of sections you'll need to meet that demand, and try to figure out if you can staff it. This will certainly result in difficult conversations with department heads and staff members who may be assigned to courses they do not expect to teach. It's essential to first ensure buy-in to the student-first mentality to prepare staff for change.
So another approach is starting with students' needs and students' desires first, investing a great deal of time and talking to the students about the opportunities that are available to them, reaching out to their families, encouraging students who maybe wouldn't have considered rigorous courses to actually invest in them that year, and then making your number one concern as you build that schedule satisfying those requests. So that might mean that an English course that has always been at first period actually needs to happen at sixth period, because that is how you get 100% of the students who've requested it into that class.
The next step is to place sections. Most schedulers start with the same schedule they built last year, or figure out which staff members want to teach specific classes. But if you let your staff build the schedule and then try to fit students in, you'll be limiting opportunities for students. Instead, place sections that maximize the number of students that will get the courses they requested. Place sections with the greatest constraints first. These are often your singletons and doubletons, and then place students into those sections.
I start with my special education courses, and I start with my EL courses, and then I go to my AP courses. And these are all singletons, because these are the kids that I need to have access to my other classes. And so in order to do that, I start by placing them. I looked at the number of rejected students, I looked at what teachers they're going to have, and I look at what period of the day. And then I go to doubletons. With the doubletons, we have a lot of AP Physics 2 students that are also in advanced band. And I have to make sure that those courses are not in the same block.
Here, you need to stop and evaluate if those are the most strategic placements and how many students might have conflicts down the road.
Before actually signing off on our master schedules, we encourage everyone to go through every single section and consider where it's been placed. How many students have gotten in? Is this section placed with the right teacher? Is it placed in the right room? All of this has a profound impact on every single one of those individuals who is going to experience that section in time every single day for the upcoming year.
Consider the priorities you've identified for your district and the specific needs of the students and staff in the school you're scheduling for. Based on these priorities, which cohort of students should you be placing first? Should you start by grade? Are you considering your underrepresented demographics, IEP students, students in pathways? There's a lot to consider here, so take small steps to assess this work as you go. Breaking down these placements allows you to understand your progress and maintain quality at every step.
Some of the questions you should be asking yourself are, who actually accessed this section? Is the group of students in this particular section of this course reflective of the overall demographics of the school? And here I'm looking at race and ethnicity, I'm looking at gender, I'm looking at students with IEPs, English language learners, and if I do find that the group of students who are in that particular section does not match the school population, that might be a signal that in some way I have unintentionally grouped students together, and I might want to consider examining some of the other sections to see if there's an opportunity to rebalance students in a way that will be reflective of the population.
Finally, you can start to evaluate the composition of your classes school-wide. Make sure you have composed, balanced classes and do some refining before you finalize and publish the schedule. The biggest benefit to iterative placement is that it takes a big challenge and breaks it into smaller steps. It enables you to make data-driven decisions, and it actually creates a lot less work in the end. When it's done right, this process should help you fulfill a much higher percentage of course requests and get the students into the classes they need to succeed. Thanks for watching. You can find more videos, worksheets, and other resources here.